Hi, I'm Brian, and I'm here to hack on the TigerBeetle Rust client. TigerBeetle. It's a high-performance financial database written in Zig. It has clients for all the languages you might want to talk to it with, but not Rust. So this is a streaming project to do the Rust client for TigerBeetle, all on stream, front to back. And we've been doing this for many months now. Slow going, but almost at a inflection point where we've got the first PR landed. And that's what we're doing today. Again, one more stream to get this PR landed. Maybe. So last time we were doing more rework. We finished most of the requested rework on this PR for the Rust client, but this PR has been in the queue for several months now. And we had to do a big merge with the upstream main branch because some stuff changed in the underlying TB client library that we link to. All of the TigerBeetle clients being FFI projects that all bind to one core static library written in Zig. And so last time we more or less finished that merge and sent it up to be reviewed. I did forget, though, that we forgot to do one of the little pieces of rework required by that merge. And that is the underlying API added status codes for every single method in the API, where they didn't have them before. And as I mentioned over several streams, we got to go remember to check those status codes, because there's nothing in the type system that's going to tell us about those status codes. They're just, in the C API, they're just numbers that are returned from the function. Whereas in Rust, if they were really important return values, most APIs would have the Rust compiler tell you got to check those return values. But this is just a CFFI API. And so nothing told us about it, and I completely forgot. So we got to go fix that today, pronto. And then we have one more piece of rework that has recently been requested in that PR. Then we got to tackle that today. So let's get going, y'all. All right, first thing I want to go do is just go look at this PR again. I've seen this PR. I'm so familiar with this PR. And I want to see if there's any new comments on the PR. And I also want to refresh my memory about what this one last thing that's been requested of us is, and open up the CI status before we push anything new and invalidate all the CI. Because, there's something failing here, and I have not really taken a close look at any of this stuff. Hopefully it'll all be relatively easy to resolve. But as soon as I push, it's going to invalidate the CI. So I want to open these logs and just have them ready to go. See, a lot of this stuff is all good. These are other client libraries. So this is like the Python client right here. Each client has its own CI, which we're going to have to add a Rust client CI to probably on this pull request. And I haven't even thought about that yet. So I'll just open these two. I'll open Mac too, because I don't develop on Mac at all, generally. So good to see if there's any Mac specific stuff. Other stuff, I'll just leave it. But I'm not going to go look at that right now. I'm just going to put it in another tab for later. Put it in our back pocket. All right, so this is the thing that I immediately after the stream last time I realized I didn't do this, which is check those status codes. And the other thing, our reviewer has asked us to get rid of this tempter dependency. This is only a test dependency, but they've asked us to not use the tempter crate. And they've given us something here. What is this thing? Just some way to get a random variable from the standard library. Huh. Pretty clever. Rust standard library doesn't have like a random number feature, but it does have hash maps, and hash maps use randomness internally. So our reviewer is telling us here's a way you can get a random number if you really want to get a random number without having a dependency. So we'll do that. First thing, I'm going to go fix those status codes though. Let's go to our code. Get something going here. And as always, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to get our workspace all refreshed. And let's look at the APIs, which are in this tbclient.rs. Again, this is generated code that we wrote to the bindings generator to generate this code from Zig FFI exports. At this point, we've done quite a lot of stuff, like systemsy stuff on this stream. We wrote an entire bindings generator for Rust that translates Zig to Rust. We cribbed off of other people's bindings generators, but still, interesting thing to be doing on stream. What am I looking for? Okay, down here is our functions. And every one of these functions, we're already checking the constructor. But all these other functions return a status that we're not checking. So I think I'm going to search for tbclient, and that'll find us various FFI function calls. So you can see this one we are checking. Let's go look at our test. Okay, our test passed. We're ready to go. This tbclient submit. We're probably calling this in a bunch of places, and that might be it. There's a destructor too, but the destructor also has a client status, a status code that it returns. Y'all, my glasses are really fogged up right now. It's annoying me like crazy. Give me 1 second to futz with my ocular gear. This often happens in this tiny little studio when I start a stream and I bring my big, sweaty, anxious self in here. So I think that's it. We call tbclient dinit and tbclient submit. And all we really need to do is assert. Hey, thanks Corwin Pro, I appreciate it. I always like it when people stop in and say something pleasant in chat. It's very encouraging. So TigerBeetle, just chit chat. TigerBeetle, we have a Twitch channel with quite a few people watching it. And usually the stream is with MattClad, Alexei Kladov, and he does TigerBeetle Zig stuff. But my stream is currently my stream is mostly Rust stuff with this Rust client. In the future, I will do some Zig as well, but one project at a time on stream. All right, so we have this tbclient status. It just has 2 statuses. This whole thing is the whole thing we rebased over or merged with upstream a few streams ago is to deal with what happens if you destruct a client and continue using it. So now every single method, like internally, it can tell whether you are using a destructed client. So all we really need to do is check on all our calls. You know, we're going to make it just assert client OK, because structurally we're going to make it impossible through Rust type system to ever use an invalid client. Other languages might need help with that, but Rust, the type system, is strong enough to just let us never enter a state where we have done a use after free, basically. That's like what Rust is so good at. That is the thing Rust is good at, stopping use after free. So we're not even going to like expose this to the end user. We're just going to make an assert. All right, so tbclient submit, and I think probably ought to say, I'll make a local for this. You could just put an assert right here around this, but I hate putting asserts around like functional code, like code that actually does something. Like Rust asserts are always compiled in, but still, like I think visually if you bury this call in an assert, it's kind of confusing for maintainers. So we'll just assign that to a local and say assert EQ status TBC TB client status client OK. And that's pretty much it. We're just going to have to do that 5 or 6 times. All right, so I'm going to cargo check. TB client status. I just typoed. And we'll run the test as well. I don't imagine there's any way our one smoke test is going to fail. And then this line is probably just completely duplicated everywhere. This is all just the same boilerplate. Probably should have stashed this in an Emacs register to copy and paste it around, but it's only 5 or 6 times. I use Emacs, but I don't. Less and less, fewer and fewer people use Emacs these days, and there's, you know, IMO, good reason for it. I don't love Emacs anymore. My fingers are just kind of tied to it. All right, and we'll keep this assert here and say let status equals that. I think that's everything. I'll go ahead and do a real quick TB client. Just searching for calls to TB client underscore something functions. Sorry, I'm a little... I had a giant cold a month ago, and then spring hit where I am, and I have pretty bad allergies, so I've just been kind of miserable lately. Probably going to sniffle a lot on this stream. All right, let's test that. All right, we're good. Commit, rework, check all status codes. Yeah, Corwin, like, for me personally, I had a very particular reason I picked Emacs over Vim, you know, very long ago. And that's because I type with the Dvorak keyboard, not the QWERTY keyboard. And Vim has this, the core navigation in Vim is just based on the physical position of the keys. And at least, you know, 20 years ago, when you were using Vim in Dvorak mode, that was just nonsense. Like those HJKL movement keys in Vim didn't make any sense. And that was the sole reason I picked Emacs over Vim when I was just first starting to choose my editor. I'm sure there's better options now. You can probably almost certainly configurable in some way. But and now I'm stuck in Emacs. I've tried, every once in a while, every few months, I think like I'm gonna go try something else. And you know, the things that are on my radar right now are Zed, written in Rust. But Zed doesn't have a terminal mode, and I really like the convenience of just SSHing anywhere and using my editor in my terminal without having to do some kind of like complex server-based remoting thing. There's another new editor, the terminal-based editor written in Rust that looks pretty good, called, I don't remember, doesn't matter. Emacs is still barely good enough. But the thing about Emacs, okay, this shouldn't, whatever. I can talk about other stuff. I can take a little diversion. Like Emacs, nothing in Emacs, Helix, that's right, thank you. Helix is the Rust editor on the command line that it seems pretty good. Kind of VM-like with its, I think it's modal in the way Vim is. Emacs, just nothing in Emacs is consistent. Like every new mode does things in slightly different ways, and like there are systems that are kind of tied together, but just everything is slightly different. Nothing is consistent. And it's all kind of just pieced together. Like if you want to use any of the modern stuff like LSPs and Tree Sitter, it's a mess. I tried to use Doom Emacs a few months ago. Doom tries to pull all the best practice packages together and package them in a way that seems kind of like a modern IDE, but even with Doom, it was just like, you got to understand what all these Emacs packages do and how they're configured for Doom specifically, and it's such a mess. Now I'm sad, guys. I don't know, Corwin. I don't really know much about Zed besides that it's written in Rust and that it's supposedly quite performant. Don't know if they have, I don't know if they're cloud policies or anything like that. I assume they're doing some LLM stuff like everybody that, you know, all obviously is going to send stuff to the cloud. All right, I got to make a little progress on the actual code that I'm trying to do here. Okay, so I did that. What's next? Okay, the next thing, let's go back to the PR. That's not the PR. That's my music. I got my audio routed through that. And remember what MatClad asked us to do here. So he wants us to not use Tempter in our tests and instead use cargo target Tempter. So Rust, at some point Cargo started like specifically setting aside a directory in your build for you to do temporary stuff in. And I've rarely used that, if I've ever used that, but we can go do something with it. Let's just go find the official docs for this thing. Cargo, what was it called? I forgot. Cargo target Tempter. Huh, not here. Let's do a search through the cargo book. Target temp. Maybe it's not actually called Tempter. Maybe MatClad was guessing. Tempter. No, it doesn't seem like it. TMPter. This isn't really the right page for that anyway. Where is it? There's a cargo book has a page, like one of the most important pieces of Rust documentation. It's a page for all the environment variables that cargo touches. TMP? No, there it is. Cargo target TMPter. Oh, he was right. I actually spelled Tempter wrong. Only when building integration test or benchmark code, not unit test. Interesting. There's a path to a directory where you can put data. Doesn't manage the contents in any way. So that means like it won't delete data for us. Which is probably fine. You know, we will do our best to clean up any data we write there. But it's not a guarantee, like we could crash and leave data hanging around that directory. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and copy this variable so I can remember it. No, actually I'm gonna copy this snippet of code he suggested we use to get random numbers. All right, let's go yak shave. Time to yak shave. All right, somewhere here we have tests. And as I mentioned before, we have exactly one test called smoke. It calls every function, but doesn't do a whole lot with it. All right, this random seed that he has given us. Let's make sure that a random seed builds. And Tempter. Okay, just kind of seeing what the damage is here, like where we're using tempter. Not too bad. And what I'm gonna do, I think, just thinking about like, you know, what the refactor is here, the steps we need to take to make this change. We're gonna get rid of tempter. And I'll probably just make this a path buff, which will be the path that this all lives in. And we'll construct that path buff using this random number in our constructor for test harness. And then we'll add a destructor that deletes that directory, something like that. Seems pretty straightforward. I'll go ahead and just, we'll do this all in like one big bang. Be bold and delete that dependency right away. And we're probably going to want path buff, which is stood path buff. And I don't particularly like, well, whatever. I was going to think about like, you know, importing some of this stuff, but it's kind of fine. It's whatever it is. And this is going to be a path buff. And at every call to tempter, this is just going to be that. Seems pretty straightforward. Okay, and we already have drop here. Drop is just straight up killing the TigerBeetle server, which is fine. TigerBeetle is awesomely designed in a way that it can be just killed suddenly at any time. It will always recover. And then we need to put a to-do here to clean up. And I'll do that later. So this tempter, I'm going to call this, what should I do? We need to make a temporary directory. We need to name a temporary directory, and then we need to make a temporary directory. And, that's interesting. So I was already using cargo target tempter and constructing a temporary directory inside of that cargo target tempter after I just said 5 minutes ago, then yeah, I've never really used this thing. But we used it on stream for this project. So we already have the access to this directory. Now we just need to kind of create a subdirectory to do the work for the specific test in. So I'm just going to use I'm going to just do, this is a string, not a path yet. So I'm just going to do some string formatting. It's going to be workdir. And we'll create another temporary to hold the testdir. And then we can call that, and convert this to a path. We probably should go ahead and convert this to a path. So say let tempter equals path buff from, I don't remember how you construct a path from a string. We'll see how that goes for us. And then we need to make let testdir equals, we can kind of just pick whatever we want, and we'll say test dash something, and then call random seed. Probably good enough. Let me get a diff and see how I called it down here with the tempter name. So I use this name for the naming. What is that name? Ah, I'm passing the name of the test into test harness. Test harness, where am I getting that name from? Okay, so it's just handwritten. We're not using some kind of magic to get the name of the test and feed that all the way into a temporary directory. It's just written by hand as a string. But anyway, we have that name, so we should use it. I'll call this name, and then pass some random goop to it with random seed. And I'm still just going to keep pushing all the way through. So I think no compile errors there, probably. That could be an error, but the compiler will help us. And we also need to make that directory. So to make that directory, we call std fs create dir all, perhaps. Again, we'll let the compiler tell us if we've screwed that name up. And then we need to do a destructor. So down here, say fs std fs. How do you delete a directory in Rust? Remove dir self.tempter. I don't know if that's correct or not. And this is a destructor. Your options for recovering from error in destructors are extremely limited. Pretty common for IO failures in destructor to just be ignored. Just hope for the best and YOLO. And this is test code, so, you know, we don't care too much. All right, let's see how much of that we screwed up. This cargo check. Cargo check is not going to get us there. Cargo check -- test might tests. Yeah, okay. I'm skeptical. Let's run the test and see. Oh, wow. That is surprising. I typed all of those things 100% correct. And then let's look inside of our target directory and see if we can identify that. Yeah, this is probably it right here. Oh, and look at that. Somehow there is a directory following the conventions we just created, just sitting there. Did this remove dir? Ah, there's some kind of conditional here that I'm... Oh, what is this? Well, what I'm thinking is that this is supposed to live right there and that this conditional wasn't getting run. But I am not sure in what situation that server wouldn't exist. Anyway, let's just go try it again. I'm glad I looked in this tempter because I wrote a bug. So let's see what's in that directory. There's a, okay, that's probably what happened is that this failed because the directory is not empty. And we ignored that error. Probably there is a remove dir all function, and that is the thing to do. Just real quick, I want to convince myself that there's no way that this could go off the rails and delete the entire partition. Like, is this tempter always sensible? Like, this will fail if cargo target tempter isn't set. Hopefully cargo always gives us a reasonable tempter. You'd also probably want to make sure this is an absolute path. I'm guessing it's an absolute path. I'm not going to check. This tempter, there's never going to be any spaces here that might cause strangeness. I'm reasonably convinced this is not going to delete anybody's entire computer. I have written bugs in the past that did delete entire computers from users, so scary. have accidentally deleted people's entire computers before. Okay, let's test that. I think this still works. All right, what did we do here? Work. Remove tempter dependency. Now let's run our cargo format and cargo clippy, make sure we're still in a good state for our PR. Okay. Cargo clippy. I'm really hoping we get this PR merged this week. It's still not like, this project is not done. We're going to be doing this stream for another 2 months probably at this rate. More probably. We have to write a test suite, and we have to write docs at the bare minimum. We probably have to do some refactoring around like multi-threading capabilities. Because right now this type as we've written it is not sync or send, it's just single-threaded. Okay, Clippy is happy. We've created 2 new commits. Let's go ahead and push that. Jay, I don't believe I have written any bugs in this code. It's mostly about polish, the tests and the docs. The API, I've written the API as I want it. I think the API looks pretty good now, but internally there's a lot of allocations. And I think I have left the space to remove some of those allocations with more or less effort. But it would be nice to do some performance testing, and because TigerBeetle is, you know, it's supposed to be a high-performance database. It'd be good for the Rust client to live up to Rust's reputation. But it's mostly about polish. I don't think there's bugs. And of course, there's the multi-threading issue where like we want to make this client probably multi-thread capable. Like you can always spin up multiple clients on different threads, but some people might want to just share this client across multiple threads. And I'm not exactly sure what that's going to take. It might just be a matter of taking this exact thing and wrapping it in an arc, just reference counting it and sharing the reference count. Well, TigerBeetle especially cares about allocations. I don't know if you're that familiar with TigerBeetle, but like TigerBeetle, one of the things it really focuses on is not doing any extra allocations. The main TigerBeetle server will do all of the allocation at startup and never touch the system. It'll never go back to the OS and ask for more memory. The Rust client is not going to be able to do that. We're going to have to allocate. The client is just too dynamic. I think none of the clients are able to avoid allocation. Even the Zig client allocates. So we've done this one. So I'll tell our reviewer we've done that. So that's done. This is done. I can say I have also pushed a commit to check all the status codes. In general, Jay, yeah, allocation refers to heap allocations. Not necessarily. Like you could, right, like the stack, the entire stack is also an allocation. Like if you create a new thread, that thread gets a stack, and that stack exists on the heap. But the stack is generally not considered, in general, when you're talking about allocations, you're not talking about the stack. You're talking about allocations on the heap. There's also static allocations. Like when a program starts, you know, the binary has a bunch of static information that tells the operating system, you got to make sure all this memory exists exactly like I'm going to need it when I start up. And that's also an allocation. But almost always when we're talking about like performance and allocations, you're talking about like dynamic heap allocations. Allocation on the stack is essentially free. Like after you have created a thread, like creating a thread is not free, but on the stack, allocation is, for all intents and purposes, free. Like the stack has, a stack discipline. It just grows and shrinks and grows and shrinks. And so when you allocate on the stack, the allocation actually happens as part of a function call with the, what's it called? The frame something, I don't know. Every time you call a function, you increase the stack pointer exactly the amount of room you need to store everything for a single function. So you call a function, it goes boom, the stack grows by that much. But the stack already is huge, right? And so you don't really need to, there's no expense in growing the stack. It's just bumping a pointer up and down, up and down, up and down. It's very cheap. Yeah, it's kind of hard to know. Like, it also like really just depends on your philosophy. Like for most people, most programmers, they don't need to think too hard about allocations because for most purposes, allocations is pretty darn cheap. Like malloc is pretty good, and the GC is pretty good. But just depending on like, what your goals are and what the expectations of your customers or users or yourself is, you might care more or less about the expense of allocation. Like for me, even when I'm writing in Rust, I mostly don't care to think too hard about performance because just writing basic, straightforward code in Rust is usually going to end up pretty darn fast. And like 95% of the code I write is never going to make it to production and nobody's ever going to care. But like if you're writing a new financial database to sell to banks, maybe that is like your number one thing. You got to care about performance. But like even in Rust, like I think a lot of Rust programmers generally, it's often the case that Rust programmers kind of overthink performance, because it's Rust and Rust has a reputation for being super fast. Like you got to squeeze the most out of it. And like really squeezing the most performance out of any language causes you to really contort the language in ways that are not very fun, not very maintainable. So oftentimes it's just the best thing to do is just do the easiest thing and not worry about it because you're not going to need it 95% of the time. Go is an interesting case though when it comes to stack allocations, Jay, because Go has the segmented stacks where like you can recurse forever in Go because it will dynamically give you more and more stack as you go. So the stack is not strictly free in Go, depending on how much you use. If you use a lot of stack, you're going to pay for it in ways that are hard to reason about, impossible to reason about, because you might hit a stack break where hit the end of the stack and need to call the malloc to give you more stack at completely random times. And that's actually why Rust doesn't have segmented stacks, because it's too hard to reason about. But Go has spent a lot of time, I'm just watching my CI while I'm chit-chatting here. Go has spent a lot of time optimizing their segmented stacks, so they are pretty darn good. Yeah, I'm kind of just chit-chatting here, Jay, because we've almost at the end of what we need to accomplish on this PR, and I'm kind of feeling a little bit languid. Not really motivated today, but we got to these failures in the CI, and they're starting to tick in. So let's go give them a little look, see what's wrong. This Alpine here is kind of like the most basic CI. Okay, I've done something that the TigerBeetle tidy script doesn't like. This is just a custom script written in Zig that runs on the code base. Okay, it doesn't like my lock file. Interesting, they didn't notice this 4 months ago. All right, that's easy enough to go figure out. We get to do a little bit of Zig, a tiny, tiny little bit of Zig today on this TigerBeetle stream. So what we need to do here is say run tidy, and this is going to run the Zig build script and then run the tidy script. And while that's running, we can go find that tidy script. Let me mess with my monitoring a little bit. If you've watched this stream long enough, you know that I'm always futzing with my monitoring. I'm crazy about audio. Where is that? Probably in source tidy. There it is. Let's let that keep running while I watch chat. Yeah, I mean, there are huge philosophical differences between Zig and Rust, no SIAM. It's kind of hard for me to bridge that gap. I mostly program in Rust, but on TigerBeetle I do quite a bit of Zig these days, and the philosophies between the two languages and their communities are quite different. You know, Rust, the crates ecosystem is one of Rust's big strengths, and like you can build huge, powerful pieces of software just by pulling in hundreds of dependencies real fast. And I think that's awesome. But, you know, as we all know, there's been a lot of pushback just on the entire concept of dependencies in software recently because of the, you know, supply chain attacks. And Zig is entirely in the opposite direction at the moment, at least. And TigerBeetle even further. Like Zig, at least, I think, has a package manager and has a desire to have a package manager, but TigerBeetle specifically does not pull in anything. You know, even the standard library, TigerBeetle is constantly like re-implementing bits of the Zig standard library for its own purposes. So TigerStyle does not like dependencies. Not necessarily because of supply chain attacks, just because of the deep knowledge of knowing what you're doing and knowing what you've got access to. And I'm not really entirely sure where I stand on that these days yet. I certainly appreciate that aspect of TigerStyle, and I do appreciate, especially when you have like a big company with a big flagship product, you know, just knowing the whole thing top to bottom has a lot of value. But that also kind of puts you in a silo, like where if everything you do is bespoke, then you're asking a lot of your developers, and you're slowly like building a tower of skills that are not necessarily completely transferable. Not a problem with TigerBeetle yet, because TigerBeetle is quite small. But like, you know, especially like in the old days, some of my jobs a long time ago were like proprietary Windows software, right? And the dependency situation on, you know, 20, 30 years ago was, you know, garbage. Like you almost always just wrote all your own stuff all the time, and a lot of it was not good, and you just lived with it, and you had this just giant tower of bugs because nobody was helping you with all your crap that you had in your software. And I don't pine for those days at all. Yeah, Jay, I don't really have a concept of what it means to be zero allocations in Go. I have not done much Go programming at all. Rust derived from C instead of OCaml. That's interesting because, you know, I was heavily involved in Rust, and a lot of the Rust influence was from functional languages, not just OCaml, but Scala especially, a lot of Haskell. Just making the language more functional was seen as being, you know, more expressive and easier to use at the time, which I still appreciate. I do like, I gotta stop goofing off here soon and get back to coding, but like I do appreciate kind of imperative statement-oriented languages. I grew up with BASIC, a lot of BASIC where it's just like write a statement to do one thing. And I kind of like that. And a lot of the Rust I write does not lean very heavily on functional or expression-oriented features. Like I do a lot of temporaries. It's like I'm going to do one thing per line and just stack a bunch of lines because I just feel like that's just easier to read and understand. But also, like, I guess 20 years ago, I was really into Scala. And I really like the ability to like just chain things deeply in big trees of expressions. Seemed really powerful. Though I have kind of like turned on that a bit. You know, being able to chain expressions together is really useful when you need it. But I do think it in my case, hurts readability often. All right, let's figure out what's going on here. I've goofed around long enough. I really appreciate all the questions though, and all the chit chat about, you know, programming stuff. That's fun. Okay, so tidy doesn't seem to exist in whatever I've done here. Okay, it's probably part of the test suite. So the test you do slightly differently. Build run will run your program, and build test will run your tests. I'm not sure in the Zig build system whether run and test are standard target names here. But in the TigerBeetle build, run and test are kind of like the two primary targets. Run runs TigerBeetle, test runs the test suite. All right, okay, finally we've reproduced our tidy failures. Let's focus for a second. I'm ignoring you guys. Just for a minute. What is this? Test tidy error banned. Add extension. Something is banned. Okay. These error messages are not super simple, but in Rust okay, I think we have 3 errors here. In Rust bindings.zig, I've done an assert incorrectly, apparently. And that lives. We're doing some zig today. All right, line. What is the line number, tidy? That is the line number of tidy. This error message is not so hot. Something is banned. Use unqualified assert. I bet this is supposed to be... What is this? Let's go look at the tidy script and see what it's trying to do. Looks like there's some opportunity for some improved developer ergonomics in the TigerBeetle tidy script. Ends with zig. If tidy banned, source file path, banned reason, source file path, S is source file path. That's a source file path. What is this? What is printing this? It's probably just the standard. No. I was thinking this was like a standard zig assert. Doesn't seem to be the case. Well, let's address the other errors first then. All right, so on zig, tidy zig line 794, we just have to add .lock to our allowed extension somewhere. That seems easier. Add extension. It's probably just a... Okay, so we could add an allowed extension, or we could just add an exception. And I don't have any particular reason to think we're going to be adding a lot of Rust lock files. So I'm just going to add an exception. It's going to be source clients Rust cargo.lock. Let's run that tidy script again. Yeah, there's a lot of, just watching what you're all chatting about, there's quite a lot of debate and consternation about the size of the Rust standard library. You know, a lot of people wish that it was just did a lot more. But I think the strategy has paid off. You know, there's pros and cons, right? Rust has got a lot of dependencies. Although I happen to think dependency management in Rust is way better than in other languages like Node or something. Like Rust does a pretty good job of helping you out with dependencies, especially just the strong typing helps you with upgrades. But with Rust standard library, there's not a lot in it. It's mostly about the core interfacing to the operating system in a way that is abstractable across many, many operating systems. And almost everything else is just punted to somebody else's problem. And I think it's worked out okay. Kind of one of the keys to getting Rust out pretty fast was just, you know, creating a good package manager and punting that entire problem to the ecosystem. The downside is that there's just lots and lots of choices, and a lot of them are half-baked. And your knowledge about Rust is pretty bad for beginners, the dependency situation in Rust, because the beginners just don't know where to look or how to find the right dependencies or the good dependencies. It takes quite a lot of experience and knowledge just about the entire Rust ecosystem to, like, when I want a thing that does this thing, like, how do I find it, and how do I vet the developers of that thing and understand that this is the one to pick over 5 different options? That's very tough for beginners. All right, let's again look at this test tidy extensions. I kind of feel like test tidy extensions. Maybe this is just like a summary error that is, this tidy script is not very good at reporting its errors. I think this is just kind of saying, like, we had errors. This is not an actually unique error here. I got to figure out what this banned thing is. Let me go ahead and checkpoint that tiny fix I made. I'm going to let y'all keep debating dependencies and such on your own for a bit. I got to make this progress here. All right, I'll go find that line of code, line 61. I feel like I have gone through this exact pain before. Like, what is the thing that is banned? Tidy banned. Yeah, it seems like you just got to read the tidy source code to figure this out. Use un. Oh, okay. I get it. Oh. Huh. So I took this error message to say, don't do whatever you're doing, use unqualified assert. But that is not what this error message is saying. This is saying, do not use unqualified assert. That's not amazing. That's not amazing. Use std xprg. Okay, so these all make much more sense. This error message is like, do this, don't do that. This is also, do this, don't do that. I think we can go fix these in another PR. Like, to me, this should be like use of. This is don't do this thing, not do this thing. All the other ones, yeah, have the explicitly do, don't, do, don't, do, don't. But these last two are like, do the thing you're not supposed to do. let's fix our bug real quick, and then we'll go bike shed and submit a little follow-up PR for this. This is easy enough that we can just go yak shave. Oh, maybe this is, no. Maybe this is, I think this is saying the opposite. Index of plus comp time. I know y'all are talking about something else, but this plus, is this a string concatenation in Zig? I'm kind of feeling like maybe it's not. What is this actually doing? Like, to me, this reads like it is looking for no Siam. Is this, to me, this reads like it's searching for that. Is that what it's doing? But why bother even writing that plus there? All right, let's look at our own code. All right, so it doesn't like rust bindings.zig. What are we asserting? Okay, so I used std debug assert. Yeah. A future highway type name is, yeah. So TigerBeetle style always in its methods, I don't know exactly what you're looking at, but TigerBeetle style in methods always puts the type name, which I find more confusing. The word self to me says, you know, this is a method, and this is a very important type in this method. But if you look at, this actually bothers me a fair bit about Tiger style. If you look at some of the methods here, the first argument is not special in TigerBeetle methods. It's just storage. But you could also say, like, you could assign, do a alias and say at this is self, and then use self. And I actually appreciate that because storage is a special type here. But like in this doesn't even read like a method. It just reads like a function. And you know, arguably methods are functions, depending on the language and the semantics. But anyway, that's I'm kind of just blinking at chat, and I don't know if that's exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, I think you're right, No Siam, that comp time string concatenation. But why would this code even bother to do that? Like, why not just make this a string? Like, all of this. You went comp time string concatenation. Comp time string concatenation. Maybe this is doing index of, because this certainly, like this right here, is certainly not searching for that. Like, that looks nothing. I guess that could be something. But this reads like there is some kind of glob between these, like that. But also that just looks like plain concatenation to me. I don't really understand what's going on here. It's got to be something very simple that I just don't understand about Zig. Anyway, I think you're right, No Siam, that my bug is that I am calling std debug assert, and presumably that's not what is wanted these days, stylistically. But we also, remember, cribbed this off of the C bindings generator. So let's go look at what they are doing. Yeah, so you just have a plain assert. And where does that assert come from? Huh. What a strange tidy rule. So it's not that they don't want you to use this function. It's just that tidy wants you to import this function. You know, maybe it's so important that there needs to be a special rule about it. Like if you write the debug assert, you're kind of hiding, you're burying the lead there, right? Like you got to read, you know, through 2 tokens to realize, oh, this is an assert. This is an important special type of thing, maybe. Anyway, this is an easy thing for us to adapt to. We'll import assert and we'll replace stud.debug.assert with assert. And then we need to run our tests again because that is impacting our code generator. There's Rust, clients, Rust, test. That should, yeah, running our build script again. So rebuilding our code generator. Yeah, it's not clear to me, no, Siam, the idea behind that. But anyway, all we have to do is mechanically follow instructions. So I seemingly did break something here. A dependency loop. So something about this assert did not actually work the way I expected to. Again, this error message is dependency loop detected. That's curious. Oh, that's not right. That is plainly a dependency loop. Oh, yeah, run those tests. All right, it's been a little over an hour now. We are kind of writing, I guess I would say we're writing Rust and Zig. We're writing a code generator that emits Rust in Zig. So we're doing all the fun things on this stream. Okay, there's still, oh, what is going on here? File never imported. This is probably like another whitelist thing. I just have to add Rust bindings somewhere. Dead files detector, okay. Let's go ahead. I think we finished this error. Just append our commit there. Go find our tidy script again. I lost track of my error message. Dead files detector. So presumably there is a whitelist here of, maybe this is it. Yeah, just entry points. Our bindings generator is an entry point. Let's see, is this in any kind of order? Doesn't look like it. Call this Rust bindings.zig. That should fix that. Hey, congratulations, Jay. That's huge. That's huge. I really respect people that are able to handle responsibility like that. I haven't had a job title in a while now. I'm not good at taking on new responsibilities. Yeah, every time I've like stepped up to like a leadership position, I just kind of completely crumbled. You're gonna do great though. All right, I think we're done with tidy. Let's fix up this. Oops. Tidy. Get my history real quick to make sure we're still looking clean. And I think we can push that. Yeah, my title is explicitly whatever I'm doing. I'm the Rust library streamer. No, seriously though, I'm only part-time for TigerBeetle. Just kind of a consultant at the moment. Do like TigerBeetle though. I've only worked part-time, like hourly, for a few years at this point. Let's go back to this PR. I kind of feel like we're done. With this PR. What, the CI stuff, I have not even attempted to add Rust CI here. Let's see. Kind of need to regroup right now. I'm just going to take a breather, y'all. Not going to think about code for a second here. I'll play some jams for you while you're chatting. Just joking. I'm not going to torture you with that for too long. Clearing out my head, though. I'm not a skilled keyboardist, but I do have some loops programmed in and the synth set up so I can just fool around. All right, are you looking at my stream? No, you're looking at my face. Let's look at our PR again. I think everything is done except for, we're going to see these CI statuses again pretty soon. And I'm just really dreading trying to set up the Rust CI. Partly because I've just kind of lost track of the current state of the art in CI and how all these GitHub hooks work. And it's just not very fun to work on. But also, I kind of feel like I could get away with not landing CI for the Rust client. But that also seems a bit irresponsible. And the stream is, going pretty well. So I think we'll push on through and go try to understand how the CI works. I don't even know if I have like permission to modify the CI. Let's see. So there's going to be some kind of dot file just hiding a bunch of goop. Is it in CI or is it in workflows? Neither of these has a whole lot of stuff in it. This is AOF. I've forgotten what AOF stands for. We have talked about this on stream before and I already forgot. But this does not look particularly like the right thing. I don't want to do this. Workflows, okay. CI, this, let me see, this is a big file. It's got to be it. Let's just go search for Go. So here's our job matrix, whatever, configuration matrix. I'll just start copying and pasting and see how far that gets us. I don't even know what the minimum version of Rust this client supports right now is, but we can kind of go guess that real quick. Just pick some version. CD clients, Rust. Let's see, do they do multiple versions here? Looks like they just pick one version and stick with it. Honestly, I can just pick whatever version I have on this computer. We don't want to be too strict about it. I think I probably got a pretty recent version, 1.84. Whatever, we'll just use 1.84 for now and loosen it later. Not important. So you can see here Node and Java are testing 2 different versions. And it should be pretty trivial for us to support a wide range of Rust versions. We have almost no dependencies. 1.84.1. Oh, there's not enough spaces for me to write that there. I'm going to say 1.84. I'll see if that works. I don't know if Rust can be installed with just 2 version numbers these days or not. I think it probably can. It used to be that you had to specify the full version number for Rust. But then again, I don't even know. Ubuntu ARM. Okay, Mac OS. Let's just get Ubuntu started. Append only file. Right, future. That seems, is that really what the context is here? What does that mean in the context of TigerBeetle? Append only file. I feel like we've had this exact conversation before. Okay. All right, what does all this stuff do? Runs on Matrix OS. DevHub. Antithesis. So DevHub is a custom TigerBeetle thing for running its simulator. Just constant fuzzing. That's funny, Future Highway. It's some database thing. Yeah. Makes sense for TigerBeetle. It's some database thing. Antithesis. Antithesis is also simulation testing. This stuff probably doesn't affect us. Core pipeline. Okay, I think this for every single operating system uses the same set of rules right here. I was looking for like differences between Ubuntu, Windows, etc. With actions setup.net. Okay, so I'm going to have to figure out, you know, what the kind of like canned GitHub actions for creating a Rust environment is here. But if it works just by modifying this, that would be very easy. Let's just put Rust all next to Go, always. Rust and Go configurations are often somewhat similar. All transactions complete, recover any data committed. The main purpose of this is to enable early deployments of TigerBeetle. I'm just reading chat about AOF, the OF thing. Unlike the event of a bug in our storage engine, we could replace. Okay. Yeah, it is some mode where just everything is written to a log, different from the standard write-ahead log. Just all transactions are spewed serially to like early adopter customers that are our good friends. And if we screw up their production systems, we can go recover those trivial AOF logs. Thank you, Highway. All right, I'm going to put all the Rust stuff next to the Go stuff. So down here. And of course, the only way to test this stuff is you just got to push it to a PR. Debug directly on a PR. As far as I know, you got to just debug the PRs directly. All right, if language equals Rust, let's go Google stuff. Probably ChatGPT can just tell us. This stuff is pretty trivial for people who know what they're doing. All right, let's go back to the webs. Oh, I'm not logged into ChatGPT. Do I really? Maybe whatever search engine I have here can tell me. How do I set up a Rust GitHub action? This does not look super promising. Looks different than what we're seeing. Also looks different. This is some person's repo, whereas we were just seeing the word actions here on our configuration. Create official Rust setup, GitHub setup action. I do feel like ChatGPT would be instantly get this correct. I'm going to just go ahead and log in. This is going to take me a second. I need to be right back and mute myself for just a moment. Yo, I'm back. I just realized my password is in my clipboard currently. Let's go look at that terminal. All right, you're not going to see this. I'm just copying and pasting the Go lines from the terminal. And, all right, in my GitHub CI setup, I have the Go actions looking like clipboard is not right. Let me try to copy that again. Sorry, bot. Let me try that again for you. That looks like a mess. Is that actually correct? Doesn't really look like it. I see what you're saying, Future Highway. Oh, why did this not copy paste correctly? This is from the terminal. Let me just ask it a simpler question. I guess the main reason future highways because I would like to follow whatever pattern already exists here. And if there's like this action setup go looks like an official thing, right? Because it's just actions. It's not some user's repo or some user's organization. So if there's such a thing for Rust that'll just slot in with copy paste, I'd kind of prefer that. Huh. So ChatGPT at least thinks no. What is the current best practice? GitHub. I'm going to look at your link though, because dToolnay stuff is the best stuff. And like we were talking about before, when you are a Rust user, it helps a lot to know that when you see dToolnay's name, that's probably the good stuff. That is not it. Copy. Just trying to copy that link. Very hard to copy that link. So incredibly difficult to copy that link. All right, I'm just going to click on it. That worked. Get ChatGPT is actually kind of confused here. It's not really helping me. I am kind of leaning towards your suggestion, Highway, because I do trust dToolnay. And this has been updated very recently. Actions checkout. Rust toolchain at stable. That's interesting syntax there. Huh. It kind of seems like he's doing something clever with the syntax. It's not necessarily compatible with the setup. Well, maybe it is. Toolchain. Passing an explicit toolchain. Okay. With toolchain, so you can be explicitly specify the toolchain, which might be more syntactically close to the code we're trying to add to. Runs on a latest card test. That's name. Okay, none of that matters. Okay. This seems like it might work. Uses with. All right, let's try it. Let's try it. I'm sure our reviewer, Matt Clad, knows much more about how to do this than me, so maybe he'll straighten us all out. Rust. dToolnay, Rust toolchain at, I want to do it this way, so we can kind of follow this logic. Toolchain. Is that the right syntax here? Probably. But what I'm wondering is whether we can say, so this looks probably correct to me. I'm just wondering whether we are allowed to use this truncated version syntax with rustup currently. So I'm going to say on the command line, say rustup toolchain install 1.84 with no point release to see if that does something. And it does. So rustup was not always that smart. It couldn't figure out how to turn a 2.4 version number into a 3-point version number. And I don't actually want that installed. I want to remove 1.84.1. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, this seems plausible to me. Let me know real quick if you see anything here that seems like it might be wrong. Do we have to run a cargo? Anything? Oh, we got to do something to run the build. Yeah. Build scripts. Okay, there's something here that I don't know about. There's a script here specifically for testing languages. All right, something I'm missing. I don't even know what this Zig build scripts target does. Let's go ahead and run it. Just see what it does by default. And I bet there's... So TigerBeetle almost exclusively uses Zig. Like even for little scripting things, it still uses Zig. So I would guess there's a scripts directory somewhere. I would guess there's a scripts directory somewhere. But I'm not seeing it. Yep, this is a part of the TigerBeetle build that I know nothing about. Source. Scripts. Oh, there it is right there. So there's a scripts module and a scripts directory. And there's a CI module right here. And my immediate question is whether like this scripts module is the entry point. And it looks like it is. These are all submodules of scripts. So this, it's not actually individual scripts, it's just a program called scripts. And all the scripts are subcommands. So in CI here, let's go ahead and run that CI subcommand and see what that does. Let me open that ci.yaml. So what we're going to end up doing here is going to say scripts CI language equals Rust. And probably, okay, and there's even more indirection here. There's a CI okay, I'm getting it. There's another little CI module inside every client directory. So we'll just, again, we'll pair up with Go. And inside the Go directory, there's going to be a CI module. And presumably that's, oh, what's all this stuff? Oh, there's so much stuff here. I don't know if we're going to get through this, y'all. There's a lot to take in here. There's a lot to take in here. Generate readmes. I haven't even really thought about doing that. All the TigerBeetle clients have a generated README file. And right now I just have a placeholder README. Then run tests. Shell open section. I have no idea. Probably this is going to mostly defer to whatever the client level CI script wants to do. Validate release. The book has a guide. Oh, wow. Apparently the Rust book has a guide to CI. I'll be honest, I have not read the Rust book in, I've read parts of the Rust book a very long time ago, but not in a very long time. I'm just seeing kind of, oh, Circle CI, this seems like it's probably pretty old. Is anybody actually using Circle CI anymore? GitHub Actions. Actions checkout. Uses. Just check out rust up. Where is it getting rust up from? Runs on Ubuntu. Just check out. Ubuntu latest. Didn't think this was enough to get a hold of rust up, but maybe it is. Well, anyway, I'm feeling like dTone's docs are probably better than these official docs at this point. Yeah. Maybe just this actions checkout just gives you rust up. I feel relatively confident that what we've got there is okay, though. But thank you again, Highway. And I'm feeling kind of crestfallen at what I'm seeing here in this CI stuff. It is not looking like something I can just tackle like I thought it would. I thought I'd just be changing some YAML stuff, but TigerBeetle has quite an involved system here for validating the clients, and this is probably going to be like a whole stream to dedicate to this. So I think we're going to start wrapping up. Let me see where I am. Tidy, that's all pushed. And this is CI stuff. I'm going to make a temporary commit here, and I'm going to push this to another temporary directory just so I have it somewhere remotely. Rust client CI. And then I'm going to go give our reviewer just another status update. Uh-oh. Push. I'm just wondering if I temporarily forgot the syntax for git push. And I think that's what happened. That's pretty common. All right, we're going to give our reviewer a little update of what we accomplished and then wrap up. Oh, look at our CI though. Everything else is green. That's good. Okay. So at matclad. And I've merged with main. The only thing missing here is CI for the Rust client. I do think we should probably do that. You know, it's kind of irresponsible to land something without CI. It's, to land a whole subsystem without any tests, pretty bad. This PR has gone on a very long time at this point. Let's see. This was originally submitted January 27th. Pretty long. But it's mostly just the streaming. The streaming stretches everything out because so far I'm streaming at a rate of about like twice a week. My name is Brian Burson on GitHub, BRSON. My socials are there. This stream and all these streams go up on YouTube pretty soon. So we're at 31 episodes now. It's been 31 episodes and many, many hours of this one project on stream. If anybody ever cares to go back and listen to it. I don't stream every day, but I usually announce it on the TigerBeetle Slack, 10 minutes ahead of time, and it's always on YouTube. This stream was amazing, y'all. I really appreciated all the help in chat and all the just, chit chat about programming stuff. That was much better than me just sitting here, just typing for 2 hours. So Really great stream today, y'all. I'll see you next time. Thanks so much.